How do you build a 6-property portfolio on $83,000 worth of income? This live session is all about answering this question. How did this guy do it? He didn't start on $83,000 as well. He started on like $55,000, and he's been building his portfolio over the years, and he now has an incredible 7 going on to 8 properties. And it's an everyday Aussie story. This guy has nothing to sell. He's not a salesperson. He's not a buyer's agent. He's not a mortgage broker. He just lives a corporate life. He's had some pretty challenging times throughout the journey, but this is how he's done it. This is what the story is and what tonight or today, whenever the hell you're watching this, is all about. Hey everyone, my name's Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Oz Property Investors. It's Australia's largest property investment community, and each week we interview top property experts. This week is an investor story. It's with Ricky Chou. You may know him from the property investment group Oz Property as Ricky Steamboat. He loves to jump in the comments. He is always giving insightful information, but he doesn't suffer a fool. Take action is the core fundamentals of this session that we ran with him. And if you guys want to learn more about it, tune in, check it out. Let's dive in and make it happen.
Where are the free boom locations, Ricky? Where are they? Where would Ricky buy now? And we get DMs about this day in, day out, and I try and answer as many as I can. But what does that mean to you, Ricky? When somebody asks that question, how do you answer that question? And we'll get back to your portfolio.
Yeah, so okay, I can speak to that. I think it's a very I think it's a meaningless question to ask someone where to buy. Once you've got your fundamentals, all right, and there are a lot of property experts out there. I mean, I'm staring at 2 right now. Once you've got your fundamental, you can find your own boom locations. All right, and I have a sort of a little analogy to go with that. Like, say I was an aspiring basketball player, and I met Michael Jordan. I wouldn't ask him, "How do you win a championship?" I would ask him, "Hey, Michael, what is your daily routine? What do you do every single day?" And his answer is going to sound something like, "I wake up 4 a.m. I go to the gym for 2 hours. I have a hearty breakfast, and then I go to the basketball court and I take 1,000 shots that day, and I don't go home until I've hit 800 of them." It'll sound something like that. And when you do enough of that, your fundamentals, the boom location, your championship, it will come at the end. A lot of people, I think it's a big mistake. A lot of people just come out and say where to buy. That means nothing, because today I might say Melbourne. In 2 months' time, it's Darwin. 2 months after that, it could be Perth. It means nothing. Find your own boom locations. Yeah, work on your fundamentals. Does that answer the question?
That's a great answer. It's like, I see that question, I'm like, oh man, you're just lazy. Like, don't be lazy. And obviously you do want everyone wants a shortcut. Everyone wants to shortcut it, but it really does depend on your brief. Like, Jeff and I bought a block of units for $1 million, and then we bought another property in Townsville for $430,000. It's like, but our brief is completely, like, those are 2 different assets, but also our brief is completely different as well. So it's trying to. Yeah. Now, well, yeah, actually, that's probably a worthwhile. Well, I don't think it's a worthwhile discussion, but we'll talk about that. We're in the process. So we bought a property in Townsville. We're going to subdivide it off, split it off the corner block, and based on the state regulations, we can actually potentially put a 5-bedroom rooming house on it. So we will talk. We'll talk about that later. If it goes through, it might not be. It might just be a 1 into 2 subdivision, which is still makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Perfect.
Yeah. When was your research? So this is some of your research before you bought your 3rd property, right? So was this in 2020 you were doing this, or 2021? Like, tell us more about this, because I shared this the other day and I thought 2021. So how did you come up with all these details about closest major town, terrain, sales demand, rental ratio index, I think it is, and depreciation, insurance? So these are kind of things, that metrics you were looking at initially, but how did you kind of come to these as things you were looking at?
Yeah, so actually, I think I got the year wrong. That regional New South Wales one, come to think of it, was 2020. It was before I did this. It was after I did that. It was after I did that, because I fudged my way through it. I found out things
Yeah.
that I didn't check because the conveyancer was asking me. It goes, "Oh, have you checked this? Have you checked that?" I go, "No, did you have to?" And then I realized, oh shit, I need a checklist of things I got to check before I spend, a ton of money on property. Uh, so, so at the time, I wasn't sure what I needed to check. So I was just making up data factors as I go along. As you can see, some of them look pretty ridiculous. Some of them make
Yeah.
sense. I knew that I needed high rent, so hence the rent index. I knew because I was getting um,
Jesus.
big fat tax returns for my first two properties. I knew that depreciation was a thing, so I had to make sure that those houses for that price range that I was looking at had depreciation, meaning it was built after a certain year.
Ah, okay. So
see.
you're
And
still
then there was
thinking from a depreciation standpoint, because that would have been that would have been the only saving grace to your portfolio at that time, was some of the depreciation that you were getting from the new build, which is not the aim of
that's right.
buying investment, right? But it does help.
It does help. Yeah, when you're on a 60K salary and your tax return is $11,000, it's a lot of fucking money. so, so I thought, oh, that's going to be one of my data factors.
That's
I mean,
so
it's not
true.
now. I don't look at it now because I realize it's not that important. It's good, but it's not that important.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So where did you end up? So there was you were looking all over the place. Toowoomba was on the list, Rockhampton, Cairns, Mackay, Townsville. Where did you end up buying
Emerald,
this
Moranbah. Yeah, lots of places.
number 3?
Yeah, yeah. I have a page for the WA suburbs too. Couldn't fit it all on
Oh,
the
in
screenshot,
WA.
but yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So the logic of how I came about to those areas was this again. This was I keep repeating myself, but coming from a low salary background, I needed high yields, and
Mm.
that's why I kept coming back to no matter how I put the query into realestate.com, WA and Queensland just kept coming up just because the rents were higher, and hence why I shortlisted. It wasn't a shortlist, but it was shortlisted to that.
Yeah. It's interesting
Really.
because the purchase prices that we're talking about here are not incredibly high. Like, I mean, even now, the properties that you purchased for $200,000 are now worth $400,000. So you could go to these markets today if you only have, $50,000, $60,000 of cash, and then a little bit of borrowing ability. Like there's no excuse. You can still make it happen, but you do need to make sure that there's still value and growth and affordability for the people that live there to take it from a $200,000 to a $400,000. But can it go from 400,000 to 800,000, for instance? Like, can it double again? And then can it go from 800? The people that live there, can they go from 800 to 1.6 million? Hey, maybe not right now. Ricky, did you ever have a battle with the emotional element when you decided not to use a buyer's agent? I believe one of the many key roles that a buyer's agent does is takes away the emotional element. Great question.
No. Well, sorry, yeah, put it up again. Battle with emotional
Yeah.
element. I'm gonna have to take a stab at what that means. No, I'm
Well,
not
just
a
like,
very emotional.
yeah,
Sorry.
there
Well,
you go.
it's actually hard because I've spoken having these conversations recently. We've been having a level up and that sort of thing. The biggest thing I'm seeing is the confidence to actually execute the strategy. People know information is not the challenge. It's actually going out there and saying, okay, look, I can now have that conversation with the agent, and I can sort of not sort of I can sort of not overpay and walk away from the deal. And just when you've missed out for that on that 50th property, you said, okay, well, I've just missed out on 50 properties I didn't need to buy. I'll go and buy the 53rd property. So that's kind of when it's emotional. Like some people will just say, oh, I'm sick and tired of going to open homes. I'm sick and tired of ringing agents. I'm just going to buy the next property. I don't care what I need
Yeah.
to do. I'm just going to buy it. So that's where I think the emotional element can come into it.
Yeah, but also, I don't necessarily like. It's also the emotional element of, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful property. I would love to live here. No, you don't want to live here because there's an easement, up the middle of the block, and it's actually blah 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 blah. Great, that's actually not a good buy for you. But you're like, oh, but it is so pretty. I don't know. maybe it's a mix of all of this one. I mean, that sounds like it's not such a consideration for you because you're not quite an emotional investor.
Yeah, I think so. There's a multiple layers to that. Firstly, I've always been sort of a numbers-driven person. Secondly, this is not a PPOR. This is investment properties. So investment properties, at the rawest form is, or any investment rather, is I want to put X dollars in and I want to take more than X dollars out. I don't care about the color of the walls or what type of carpets you use or or the color of the fence. They're not important to me. So I was never an emotional investor.
Great. Someone just, I think it was Chou.
Crucial.
Kushal, sorry. Ricky is an investor, not a buyer. Such a great way to sum it all up. And that's what you have to be. Like, this is like, I don't really care for property, right? Very good at buying property, very good at finding good deals, but I don't care what it is. I'm not doing this. I'm not buying an investment property because of an emotional aspect. I'm doing it because I want to make money out of the actual deal, and the dynamics make sense for me to make financial sense out of it. So you do have to just take that emotional part out of your brain. Now, not completely. I see people like, oh my gosh, the spreadsheet says it's an amazing buy. And then you look at it, it's like, yeah, but the like it's got these problems here, and here. Like, it's got, housing commission right next door. It's got all of these non like quantifiable numbers to it as well, which you do have to overlay. Like, would you live there is not always, if it's yes, it doesn't always necessarily mean a buy, but you should have that thought. Like, is this something that I would like to live in? Because that means it's got some owner occupier appeal to it. But also, if you're buying in the more affordable pocket and the more affordable price range, and you have $150,000 salary and you're looking in an area that's $300,000, you can't compare what you would live in versus what someone in that situation would live in, because it's not really fair. So yeah, don't be a snobby investor.
Ricky, can you explain how you continue to grow your LVR with taking out so much debt? 30 on 83K a year max. Not sure how you can be in positive cash flow without large deposits that aren't tied to equity kind of coming along. So let's address that, because that is a bit of an elephant in the room, because you're like, crap, you built the multi-million-dollar property portfolio. And I even said, look, crap, okay, yes, they probably doubled, but yeah. So take us through the process of how you did that, or as much as you can.
Yeah, so I'll probably throw a So I might answer this question because it's been asked to me a few times. Just before I answer this question here, so a lot of people have said to me, "Ricky, you seem like a relatively intelligent guy. Why are you on this low income all that time?" So I sort of mentioned before, being the full time parent. So because I went through that sort of divorce, that explains it. Because I was doing a job that allowed me to go in at 10 o'clock, leave at 2 o'clock for pickup. So that answers that question. Because everyone's going to be thinking, Ricky, why would you stay on a 80K salary? So that's the answer. Anyway, to answer this question, so there's a few layers to this question as well. So because I know that my base salary was never really that high, I had to work extra hard to find these extra high yields. One of the deals that I mentioned before was 9%. A lot of my deals actually look like that. It was like 8-9%, and that goes towards servicing. Like, even though my base salary is 83K. By the time I got my sixth property, I've got six properties earning at about between 8 and 10% because of the rent increases over the years. 8 and 10%, and that goes towards servicing. So my annual income, including 6 properties rent, is probably 250K, maybe 240K. Yeah. So
Jeez.
yeah, it's over two. Wait, hold on. Yeah, about sorry, maybe 230K.
Yeah.
And so when my borrowing gets assessed, the income from the
they love it.
properties.
They're like, oh my gosh, he's got all the cash in the world because his portfolio is giving him 8-9%. Now, are you seeing places out there in Australia now that have these type of returns that still have capital growth?
That you actually buy.
Then back 6.5, 7 is doable, but you really have to look for those. Also, another. Sorry, what's that?
At what price ranges?
It'd be on the lower side, obviously. Your 350s to 400s, but you wouldn't be getting 7% on a 600k, probably, unless you put a bigger deposit. But sorry, and another layer to the answer to that question would be also T3 and T2 lenders. I don't hesitate at all. If I can get an asset, I don't care what the interest rate is. I know, because I see in the Facebook group a lot of people say, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
7%, that's crazy." I think 3 of my houses are on 7.5%, or were on 7.5%, with First Mac. But I said, I don't care. I got an asset. 1%. So the average interest rate is what, 6.5? I'm paying 7.5, so that's
Yep.
1%. 1% over $500,000 is $5K a year. So to lose $5K and then gain $50K equity, that's a bug. I look at the big picture. I don't think about interest rates all too much, unless I can't afford it. If it gets to the point where it's negative cash flow, like dipping into my savings, then I might not. If I can afford to hold it, I'm happy to give 5K to earn 50K.
One of the questions that's popped up is around the trust structuring. Like, is that a consideration? Has that been a part of the journey? Like a trust where you need to be right now, but it maybe not with these types of purchases you've been doing?
I've been talking to an acquaintance in the property field, and we sort of ran through my situation. He's actually seen all my numbers, my addresses, everything. And it looks like I might have to sell down, possibly, to start buying in a trust to keep going after 7. So, but that's I'll think about that when it happens. The only reason why I keep everything in my name, it's not because I'm ignorant to trusts. It's because of these high yielding properties that actually work in my advantage to be under my name, as you know how
Help you.
borrowing works, right? Yeah, they help me. If I start hiding stuff, not hiding, but if I start parking properties in trusts, I myself won't get the borrowing capacity for it. And I won't get the depreciation, which helps with the cash flow. So it's a sort of, it's a
Negative
juggling
gearing.
game. Yeah. So I'm open to trusts. It might be on my next. I might have to sell down 1 or 2, to start opening trust.
Yeah, interesting. It's like don't follow the herd. Just because other people are getting trust doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best fit for you. And in actual fact, it's actually helping Ricky not having a trust, and helping him borrow to do what he does. But again, not financial advice. Go speak to your accountant and do all that fun stuff. Save you
I,
saying
I,
it.
I would say it would be a lot harder to do what you've done today without trusts. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but to see the growth, yeah. But yeah, at the same time, you took action, man. So we can't, nobody can take that away. Somebody will come along in 5 years' time and they'll have bought. Somebody said the other day, the next kind of thing will be 5 properties on 120K income, and everybody like, how did you buy 5 properties on 120K income? And that'll, because to do that on, I think I'm not going to say it's impossible, but yeah, you'd have to invent some sort of probably time machine. How did you overcome borrowing capacity, considering were you positively geared? So it sounds like you mostly were. Is that the kind of one of the secrets? But also buying lower value properties at the time, from the sounds of it.
Yes. Basically everything I said just then, sort of answered that. So by putting them under my name, I get the benefit of all the yields to go into my borrowing capacity. And because I'm targeting those 8-9% yields, it wasn't that hard. And mind you, it was 8 or 9%, a couple of years ago. But my first couple of properties, they're on maybe 50% now, just because of over the years, the rent increases. So does that answer the question? Yeah. And also T3 lenders, First Mac. I've got a bunch of loans with First Mac, and at a time when
Yeah.
Westpac and ANZ said to me, "Ricky, no more money for you." First Mac said, "Here, have 900K," and I said, "Thanks."
Oh, what?
Straight
Yeah.
off the bat.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
First Mac, there's Pepper, there's
First Mac
there's
is great. They do love to charge ridiculous amount of monies for their money, but
Man,
it all
they're not too bad. What do you mean, Joe? Well, maybe they liked me more. What the rates that I was getting the other day? I mean, yeah, but I suppose it depends
okay.
on LVR.
Oh, they
LVR
dropped it
as well. If you
recently.
go and hire,
They dropped
they
it
dropped it.
recently.
Okay,
Yeah. So when I signed up, say a year and a half ago or last year, it was about 7.5%. for whatever reason, just 2 months ago, they dropped it 0.95, almost a whole percent. So you can
Wow.
buy with First Mac 6.5%, and they give a lot of
Jesus.
borrowing. Look into it.
Chat to your
there is-
broker. They
There's
might be
so
able
many
to.
options out there. If your broker's saying you can't borrow, I would want them to give me a clear game plan within the next 3 or 6 months as to the things I need to do. And if they're not, if you want to build a portfolio, you probably need to knock on a few more doors, because there are lenders that'll do it. You just have to be sort of buttoned up with your cash flow, because if you're not buttoned up on that, you are potentially running yourself too close to the sun. Because I'm a bit risk averse. I don't mind pushing the envelope a little bit, a touch. But you still need to be comfortable with your own situation. And if that changes, can you continue to keep holding these properties? That's what you need to consider.